Okay, this is gonna be a good one. So, Ben Shapiro covered this, Steven Crowder covered this, but I haven't actually seen anything actually referencing the article directly, or at least showing it. So, here we go. Babe.net. Article is by Katie Way, and it is titled, I Went on a Date with Aziz Ansari. It turned into the worst night of my life. And they got this really great photo of him. So, firstly, I'm just curious about this author. Aziz Ansari issues statement denying sexual misconduct. What else did she write? God, sobriety, and Mario Kart. Just a list of things we've pretended to like to impress a crush. Am I high as shit, or do celebrities low key look alike? Got a picture of who's her face and some rapper or something. I don't. Yeah, Meryl Streep in Future. So some really high quality stuff coming out of KUA. But anyway, back to the article. She approached him because she recognized his camera flash. Aziz Ansari was taking pictures at the 2017 Emmy Awards after party with a film camera, not a digital one. That's fucking classy. Oh my goodness. Stood up, and a little tipsy at this point, feeling really confident, blah blah blah. Did you just shoot with? So Grace is the victim here. 23-year-old Brooklyn-based photographer. So she's 23 now. She was 22 at the time. So did this happen last year? She brushed her off at first. Blah blah blah. He realized they both brought the same kind of camera to the event, so that impressed him. Um, wow, what a guy! That's a photo. Is it the same one from the top? No, it's a different photo. Alright, they ran into each other one last time. He took her number. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, they were texting. And then he asked her on a date on the 25th of September. The date didn't go as planned. Okay. Alright, this is where it gets good, so I'm just gonna start reading it. The date didn't go as planned. The night would end with Grace in an Uber home. Classic. In tears, messaging her friends about how Ansari behaved. Babe spoke to the first friends she told about it and reviewed the messages on her phone. The day after the incident, she wrote a long text to Ansari saying, quote, I just want to take this moment to make you aware of your behavior and how uneasy it made me. To that message, Ansari responds, clearly I misread things in the moment and I'm truly sorry. The mobile phone number from which his texts to her were sent matches up with his details on a searchable public register. It wasn't a fraud. Wow, okay, good. That's good to know. We spoke to Grace last week. When we met, Ansari had just won Best Actor for his Netflix show Master of None at the Golden Globes, where he declared his support for the fight against sexual assault and harassment by wearing a, quote, Time's Up pin on the red carpet. Grace said that it was surreal to be meeting up with Ansari, a successful comedian and major celebrity, and she was excited for their date. Alright. Before meeting Ansari, Grace told friends and coworkers about the date and consulted her go-to group chat about what she would wear to fit the cocktail chic dress code he gave her. She settled on a tank top dress and jeans. Interesting. She showed me a picture. It was a good outfit. This is all such useful information. So far, no sexual misconduct, no harassment or rape, but you know what? I'm sure we'll get there. I mean, it's the worst night of this woman's life, so we gotta see something soon. After arriving at his apartment in Manhattan on Monday evening, they exchanged a small talk and drank wine. It was white, she said. I didn't get to choose, and I prefer red, but it was white wine. Heaven forbid. And then Ansari walked her to Grand Banks, an oyster bar on board a historic wooden schooner on the Hudson River just a few blocks away. Alright, sounds like a pretty standard date. Okay, she said it was a beautiful, warm September night. They discussed NYU, comedy, and a new secret project he was working on, but she says she did most of the talking. Alright, so we've got on Aziz Ansari, I don't know, being awkward. He's not the best gentleman. He doesn't ask her what kind of wine she wants. Again, so far pretty standard. Nothing to warrant the worst night of her life. But anyway, unless she's had a very good life. Grace says she sensed Ansari was eager for them to leave. When the waiter came over, he quickly asked for the check and he said, like, quote, let's get off this boat. Nice. She recalls there was still wine in her glass and more left in the bottle he ordered. The abruptness surprised her. Like he got the check and then it was bada boom, bada bing, we're out of there. Alright. So again, being a bit of a scuzz, but anyway. They walked the 2 blocks back to his apartment building, an exclusive address on Tribeca's Franklin Street, where Taylor Swift has a place too. When they walked back in, she complimented his marble countertops. According to Grace, Ansari turned the compliment into an invitation. Okay. Oh boy. He said something along the lines of, how about you hop up and take a seat? Within moments, he was kissing her. In a second, his hand was on my breast. Then he was undressing her. Then he undressed himself. She remembers feeling uncomfortable at how quickly things escalated. So, at any point, this victim of a woman could have said something along the lines of, hey, no, or stop that, or I don't like what you're doing, or you know what, it was nice meeting you, I'm gonna go home, or I have to feed my beaver. Any myriad of excuses. My dad died. I gotta go to the hospital. I just had a brain aneurysm. Goodbye. Any number of things, but so this is when feminists are hurting themselves by they're asking for control, for their own say, and which of course they have, and they've had it forever. But when you're in a situation which you don't like, where a man is advancing on you in an uncomfortable way and you don't like what you're doing, you have to use your voice and you have to say no. And then from there, obviously, if the man ignores what you're saying, he's a rapist, he's a terrible person, he should go to prison, or, whatever else should be done to him. But when you're in a situation like this, and then especially when you take something like this and you cry sexual harassment, or whatever it is, or you cry me too, for instance, you're taking the power out of the phrase, okay? When you're falsely accusing somebody of doing something, for instance, sexual harassment, rape, whatever it is, when you accuse someone falsely, it takes the power out of it. It's like calling Trump a Nazi, okay? If everybody's always saying Trump's a Nazi, he's not doing anything Nazi-esque, he's not, killing any Jews, or doing anything like a Nazi. Whenever you hear someone say somebody's a Nazi, you go, oh, yeah, okay, whatever. That's, you don't, it takes all of the weight out of the word. And that's obviously the direction this article's going. Now, I've read it, sorry, I'm just glancing at the article. Absolutely some absurd stuff coming up. But anyway, so we'll get back to the article. But this is really dangerous because It's the feminists are just like, oh yeah, like more, they're going for quantity over quality. The more powerful men, where firstly, Aziz is not a powerful man, he's a rich soy boy. So, totally different situation here. But anyway, they're saying, the more examples of sexual harassment and sexual assault we can find, the better, and the more that will empower our movement. Whereas it's really just desensitizing people to what they're actually saying. So anyway, she remembers feeling uncomfortable at how quickly things escalated. When Ansari told her he was going to grab a condom within minutes of their first kiss, Grace voiced her hesitation explicitly. Okay, there you go. I said something like, whoa, let's relax for a sec. Let's chill. She says then he resumed kissing her, briefly performed oral sex on her, and asked her to do the same thing to him. She did, but not for long. Quote, it was really quick. Everything was pretty much touched and done within 10 minutes of hooking up, except for actual sex. Okay, so, sounds like she said no, and he said okay. Not sure why she performed oral sex on him if she wasn't into it. Again, plenty of other situations where she could have said no. So I think that's basically where it all went wrong. I'd say right there. When she's performing sex acts on him without hesitation and allowing him to perform them on her, where is your you've kind of gone and forsaken your ability to revoke consent. Once you've performed these acts, your ability to revoke consent is far less than it is to never give it in the first place, if that makes any sense. If you don't give consent initially, then that's that. It becomes a far more difficult situation when you do some shit like this in this situation, and then halfway through you go, you know what? No. Which, of course, she has entirely the right to do, but it doesn't quite seem like she did. She could always, at any point throughout this, she could, of course, have said no, gotten up, put her clothes on, and left. At any point. So, and then it's, geez, I had this shitty half an hour with Aziz Ansari, and thank God I got out of it, and now I'm going home and I'm okay. That's easy solution where you just didn't let it get any further, at any point. Obviously, it should have been stopped long before this, which she had the power to do, but she didn't use the power that she had. Anyway, she says Ansari began making a move on her that he repeated during their encounter. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Okay. Alright, so Grace calls this move, quote, the claw. The move he kept doing was taking his two fingers in a V shape and putting them in my mouth, in my throat to wet his fingers, because the moment he'd stick his fingers in my throat, he'd go straight for my vagina and try to finger me. He called the move the claw. I don't, whatever that. Why I don't know why that's relevant, but anyway. Ansari also physically pulled her hand towards his penis multiple times throughout the night. From the time he first kissed her on the countertop onward, he probably moved my hand to his dick 5 to 7 times, she said. He really kept doing it after I moved it away. But the main thing that he wouldn't let her move away The main thing was that he wouldn't let her move away from him. She compared the path they cut across his apartment to a football play. It was 30 minutes of me getting up and moving and him following me and sticking his fingers down my throat again. It was really repetitive. It felt like a fucking game. Well, I cannot believe this girl went through this for 30 minutes. 30 fucking minutes. It's a half hour. What else takes a half hour? That's like... I don't know, a game of League, or you're sitting around with a fucking pizza in the oven for 30 minutes. Why not, at any point throughout this 30 minutes, say goodbye? 30 minutes where you're getting up, and I'm quoting this, it was 30 minutes of me getting up, moving, and him following and sticking his fingers down my throat again. That sounds shitty. Okay, flat out, like, that sounds like some shit. 30 minutes of shit. Why would you go through that? Unless, A, you're trying to write an article about it, or B, you have convinced yourself that you have no power and that you don't have a voice because that's what you've heard from your bubble of, in your echo chamber of feminist liberal bullshit. So anyway, this girl voluntarily goes through a half an hour of really awkward shit. Like, that's... Firstly, there's just so much wrong with that. There's so much wrong with that. Anyway, we'll keep going. I'm kind of getting tired of this because it's ridiculous. And pretty disgusting, and I don't really want to read too much more of it. But anyway, throughout the course of her short time in the apartment, she says she used verbal and nonverbal cues to indicate how uncomfortable and distressed she was. Most of my discomfort was expressed in me pulling away and mumbling. I know that my hands stopped moving at some points, she said. I stopped moving my lips and turned cold. Whether Ansari didn't notice Grace's reticence? Is that a word? I don't know. Reticence. The quality of being reticent, reserved. Huh. Traditionally emotional reticence of the British. Interesting. Never heard that word before. So there you go. You learn something new every day. And it's coming from Babe, too. Who'd have thunk it? Anyway. Wow. Okay. Her reticence or knowingly ignored it is impossible for her to say. Quote, I know I was physically giving off cues that I wasn't interested. I don't think that I was noticed at all. I don't think that was noticed at all, or if it was ignored. Ansari wanted to have sex. Okay. This girl is in the apartment fucking naked with this guy. I don't know what she's expecting to happen. Right? Get out. If you don't like where the situation is going, leave. So simple. So simple. I'm sure this video is just getting long-winded and stupid because it's just repetitive. She's just saying over and over again, this is how he was making me uncomfortable, and, she's giving off physical clues. These physical clues weren't putting her clothes back on, so if they're just walking around the apartment naked, those are some pretty shitty clues. And anyway. Ansari wanted to have sex. She said she remembers him asking again and again, where do you want me to fuck you? While she was still seated on the countertop. She says she found the question tough to answer because she says she didn't want to fuck him at all. Then why are you in his apartment naked with him? Quote, I wasn't really even thinking of that. I didn't want to be engaged in that with him, but he kept asking, so I said, next time. And he goes, oh, you mean a second date? And I go, oh yeah, sure. And he goes, well, if I poured you another glass of wine now, would it count as our second date? Nice. He poured her a glass, handed it to her. She excused herself to the bathroom soon after. Hey, get yourself out of the situation. Good move. Finally. Grace says she spent around 5 minutes in the bathroom collecting herself in the mirror and splashing herself with water. Then she went back to Ansari. He asked her if she was okay. I said, I don't want to feel forced because then I'll hate you, and I'd rather not hate you, she said. Okay, so she's saying, what a confusing sentence. So she says, okay, I'm just going to read it a second time. I said, I don't want to feel forced because then I'll hate you. And I'd rather not hate you, she said. Why? Okay, if he's forcing it, hate him. He's a terrible person. if he's not, put your clothes on. And if you don't want to have sex with him, don't be in the situation. Like, what, you shouldn't be saying the sentence. There's no situation in which the sentence makes sense. Either you're not having sex with him and he's not forcing it and it's irrelevant, or he is forcing it and you should hate him. So that's just absurd. This whole thing is it's a ploy to attack men. Holy shit, it's long. Alright, we're not gonna read any more of this because we'll read Ansari's full statement. But so basically this woman is just searching for a way to attack men. She doesn't even use a man, right? She uses this whatever child, weird boy thing. I don't know. It's a pathetic attack on men with no base in reality. Right? He never actually forces anything. He's persistent in a really weird way, which you definitely shouldn't be. But if a man's acting this way and you're a girl, just leave. Get out of the situation. It's probably not safe. It's not somewhere you should be. It's not something that you should want to put yourself through. So, anyway, we'll read Ansari's full statement and that'll be the video. If you want to, the link's right here. I'll put it in the description. But, wow. Okay, so, update Ansari's full statement. In September of last year, okay, so it was last year. In September of last year, I met a woman at a party. We exchanged numbers. We texted back and forth and eventually went on a date. We went out to dinner, and afterwards we ended up engaging in sexual activity, which by all indications was completely consensual. The next day, I got a text from her saying that although it may have seemed okay, upon further reflection, she felt uncomfortable. It was true that everything did seem okay to me, so when I heard that it was not the case for her, I was surprised and concerned. I took her words to heart and responded privately after taking the time to process what she had said. I continue to support the movement that is happening in our culture. It is necessary and long overdue. So, basically, it's an interesting statement down at the bottom there. Basically, Aziz Ansari is a scuzzbag who was just trying to have sex with this girl he just met, which is just gross in the first place. She wasn't into it. She should have left. I'd say these people are both in the wrong. But I would also say there's no reason to write a 3,000 word article attacking men, trying to enliven some movement because Aziz, while he was being a douche, really he did nothing illegal, firstly, which is important, and secondly, this girl, they say don't blame the victim. I don't think she was really a victim in this situation. I think she was being stupid. And so this is really harmful to the quote-unquote Me Too movement.